get understanding. Is that chapter 4? Yeah. Yeah, verse 7. Yeah, God, what a magnificent verse with all that. And by the way, it's not talking about the understanding and the wisdom of the world. It's not talking about books and education, and he's not talking about geology and psychology and all the ologies. And he's talking about simply what is the wisdom of God. The beginning of the fear of the Lord is the beginning of wisdom and knowledge, because you begin to think about him and what he desires and what he wants. By the way, did you notice if you study what the Lord has you to study, you'll learn what you really need to learn? It's just that simple. I apologize. Proverbs chapter 6 and verse 1. Chapter 6 and 1. Thank you, brother. Chapter 6 and verse number 1. All right, so we're going to switch gears. We spent chapter 4 and chapter 5 talking about wisdom, and chapter 5 primarily about the young man being warned by his father concerning sexual immorality. And he takes a break in chapter 6, and he'll go back into it in chapter 7. And by the way, I'll take you back to the verse in number 4 of chapter 4. It says, he taught me also. Verse number 3 says, I was my father's son, right? And then verse 11, I have taught thee. So there are a couple of verses in that chapter 4 that remember, of course, getting wisdom. But take that verse 3, I was my father's son. Then he says, I have taught thee in verse 11, because you realize it's generational. You pass one to the other, right? Somewhere along the line, we missed it, and we dropped it in the 1960s and 70s. And suddenly, we wanted our children to have it better than we did. And we thought that meant they shouldn't have to go to work like we worked. Shouldn't have to work as hard as we worked. And it was a mistake. It was a mistake. Mm-hmm. They don't know perseverance. They never learn how to face adversity. You know, big adversity I have, the challenges of my life was when I was a young boy, to go out to a field, how big it was, and see all that. You could see the weeds, it's how in the world you ever go get through that? But you know what? By the end of the day, you look back and what an accomplishment. I mean, even as a boy, you feel so good about it, but it looks overwhelming, and you learn, hey, just take a little at a time, just get started, and it'll work. So a lot of things we could learn, but this father is teaching his son, who's now teaching his son. Chapter 6, verse 1. My son, if thou be surety for thy friend, if thou hast stricken thy hand with a stranger. This is hard. I studied this last week, and then I'm going to get studied on it this week again, trying my best to find a way to present this in a proper manner so you don't get sidetracked. Don't sign for somebody else to get a new car. Don't sign for somebody else to get a house. Don't be surety for somebody else. Now, let me tell you what he's trying to talk about here. You don't know the future. You don't know what's going to happen. Now, this hit me, and some of the brothers are here. We talked about this a few years back, and we were one of our meetings, and I said, guys, do we have anything on the church? He said, well, we have about so-and-so. I said, can we pay it off? The Lord laid on my heart. We got men that's got their houses up and their land. The church is being bought, and we have money on the church. But you go to a bank, they got to have somebody that's got asset, and they got their livelihoods and everything on the line there. And so what we do, we paid it off, didn't we? We got it paid off. That way it became a priority. And we paid things by as we go, because you got to be careful. And he says, now, if you're a surety, I'll tell you what, Brother Cam, what version are you reading back there? Read it out loud for me. At verse 1.
My son, if you have put up security for your neighbor, if you have struck hands in pledge for another.
Yeah, for your friend or a stranger, even a stranger. Thou art snared with the words of thy mouth. Thou art taken with the words of thy mouth. You've been caught. That's tough. Sometimes your heart gets in the way and you want to do things that you just shouldn't do. Son, if you have put yourself up as surety and you put yourself in, you're snared with the words of your mouth. That's what's happened. You have been snared by what you've said, and you've gotten yourself into some trouble. It's talking about getting into debt. Most of America's in debt, right? You have www.debt-solutions and my debt and get out of debt and all those kind of .coms that are going to help you out, right? By the way, you know how all of them work? Declare bankruptcy and they'll help you out. They'll show you how to get through the thing, but they make their money like that. They're going to get some of it. But the point they're making is this. If you owe somebody some money, you want to try to repay it, right? But you're going to owe it. Now, of course, in these days, you're going to have to pay it. You have to be a slave. You didn't get off the hook if you couldn't pay it. What am I going to do? You go to jail. No, you're going to be a slave and work it off for the people. But he says, son, if you do this, you know what's happened? Read verse 2 out of the NIV. Read it out loud for me. Verse number 2, Brother Cam.
If you have been trapped by what you said, ensnared by the words of your mouth.
All right, and read verse number 3.
Then do this, my son, to free yourself, since you have fallen into your neighbor's hands. Go and humble yourself, press and plead with your neighbor.
Yeah, you go and plead, you beg him, you plead with him. Hey, listen, man, get me out of this. Well, you signed for, oh man, please, man. You gotta help me out. I shouldn't have said that. With all that you can, get out of it. With all you can. He's trying to tell you not to go in debt. But that's what everybody does. I'm reminded of not Biden, not his administration. It wasn't Trump. Obama. That's when they coined the phrase, we're going to spend our way out of debt. And a lot of us said, that sure don't work in my house. What if you go in so much, accumulate debt and you sell the debt? And the point is you don't want to be in debt. But that's the coin phrase in America. He's trying to tell you to get out of it with all you can. So he says it. Do this now, my son, and deliver thyself. When thou art come into the hand of thy friend, go humble thyself. Make sure thy friend. Give not sleep to thine eyes, nor slumber to thine eyelids. Get out of that. Whatever you do, get out of debt. Deliver, he says, no, nor slumber to your eyelids. It's that important. He says, deliver yourself as the roe, like the gazelle, from the hand of the hunter, and as the bird from the hand of the fowler. In other words, like the gazelle getting away from the hunter with all that they've got to the last breath. By the way, we happened to watch that the other night, the gazelle and the lion. Of course, the gazelle didn't stand a chance. No, that wasn't a lion. I apologize. Cheetah was watching the cheetah. Yeah. Lion you might get away from, not the cheetah. But with all they can, you want to get away. That's the point he's making is do everything you can to get out of debt. What in the world is he trying to, what is he saying to this boy? Son, debt is a bad thing. You don't want to owe people. So that's the only way you can do it, Brother Glenn. There's other ways to do it. How am I going to save up that much money? Sure you can. You can save it up. It's not hard. It's so enticing when somebody says, hey, you just sign on the dotted line and it's yours. But now you owe me. But what he's talking about here is you're doing this for a friend. Now you owe the debt. You put up surety for him and it falls on you. Do everything you can, like the gazelle, the roe from the hand of the hunter, and the bird from the fowler. Whatever you do, get from under this. Whatever you do, get from under this. Deliver thyself like the roe and like the fowler, the bird from the fowler. Any comments? Just those 5 verses talking about debt. When you want to, so if you have in your Bible, you say, well, what is in the Bible does it talk about debt? Oh, wait a minute. I got it. Proverbs 6, 1-5. Debt. Hey, you don't want to go into debt. Don't sign. Don't put yourself in. You can't afford that. Don't sign on the dotted line. You can't afford it. I'm reminded of my son telling me about people who make a lot of money, but they live from paycheck to paycheck. That means they got that much debt. It's always best to, by the way, one of the best ways to get out of debt, just pay on all of them, but try to pay off at least one. And when you get it paid off, don't just take that money and make the payment to the other one that you're going to pay off. When you pay that one off, just make it to the other one you're going to pay off. Keep your standard of living the same. Don't change it until you get out of debt. And by the way, a rule of thumb, how much money should you save up? Anybody know that financial?
5 months.
3 months salary. 3 months salary. I always save up 3 months salary. At least that much, because hard times hit you. You never know when it's going to happen. What he's saying is don't sign. And if you do get yourself in a mess, plead with all you've got to get out of it. Don't put yourself in trouble. All right, now we need to talk about work. You ready? Go to the ant, thou sluggard. Consider her ways and be wise. A sluggard is a person that is just doesn't work much. A man that's lazy, just lazy. Now, this does not only apply to the man, but the woman as well. And you've heard the stories of what you've been doing. They've been cleaning up all day, and still the place looks about the same. They clean up a little bit, stop, clean up a little bit, stop. Or the man that gets started and he just can't get his projects done. He's got 4 or 5 projects, but never gets any of them done. And well, he's out today, he's out tomorrow, he's always out of work. He's why? Because he can't keep a job, because he keeps laying out, or just he's not good at it, or he doesn't try. And he said, consider the ant. You want to see somebody who works? Consider the ways and be wise, which having no guide, overseer, or ruler, provided their meat in the summer and gather their food in the harvest. Ain't got nobody over them. Don't tell them what to do. Guess what? They're self-motivated. In other words, if you're the kind of person that well, the only time they work is when the boss man's there. When the boss lady walks away, they don't work. And he calls them a sluggard. Why does it say in the NIV, Brother Cam? That word sluggard there in verse number 6. Sluggard. Yeah. Sluggard, a person that just is lazy. Huh? Lazy bones. Lazy bones. I think that's kind of what that's one of those bad. Putting them down at it. That's putting them down pretty hard. Yeah, there's no overseer, there's no ruler, but they supply meat. In other words, you don't have to be they're motivated. In other words, you're supposed to do it because it's the right thing to do. Why do you work a job? Well, I hate working. Why? Because I don't like it. Why should you like work? Because God wants you to work, right? We were told to do that. And Thessalonians and Timothy. But if any provide not for his own, especially of his own house, behold, he hath denied the faith and is worse than an infidel. For even when we were with you, this we commanded you, that if any would not work, neither should he eat. Scripture's filled with, you need to work. You got a job. And he says, you don't need an overseer to do this. You should be able to work without somebody over there. And the ant doesn't do that. How long wilt thou sleep, O sluggard? When wilt thou arise out of thy sleep? How long is it going to be like this? Yet a little sleep and a little slumber and a little folding of the hands to sleep. So shall thy poverty come as one that travaileth, and thy want as an armed man. In other words, your poverty is going to come like a prowler. Needs like an armed man. In other words, poverty is going to tackle you and take you over. Like a bandit. You are going to be robbed. He's going to overtake you. Poverty is going to come to your house. Well, you know what? I ain't got much. I don't have a lot, and it's not fair that all these people have so much and I don't have much. That's a sluggard. That's a sluggard. It's wrong. It's a sin for a man to sit there and tell you, I don't have it, it's somebody else's fault. Well, I don't have opportunity. Well, God provides all of our needs. So why are you complaining about what God's given you? They got all this and I have very little. This is called a tent we live in, temporary place. We don't even belong down here. Why are you trying to amass riches here? Having food and raiment, there would be content. Is that not the scripture? It's pretty clear, isn't it? I have been young and now I'm old, yet I've not seen the righteous forsaken nor his seed begging bread. We know that God supplies all your need, right? So why do we complain about what we do not have and what somebody else has? Yeah, that's right. But it isn't scripture. It's not Christian, is it? It says clearly here, no. How long are you going to slumber? It says, poverty is going to overtake you. If you don't work, you're going to be poor. We see poor people all the time that enjoy being poor. When a grown man got good, strong legs, can stand up 6 hours at a stop sign collecting money, he can go to work. I'm sorry, brothers and sisters. We've seen people like that. So the bottom, remember we talked about the guy that came in that night? The poor guy that was, his mind wasn't right. Those are the kind you want to take out your wallet. Please help this fella out, you know. You want to pay money to help them. You can tell the man had a need. Those are the ones you want to help. But brothers and sisters, if a man's a saint of God, you know the Lord, he ought to work. Otherwise, when poverty hits you, don't worry. You expect it. This is what's going to happen. So thou poverty be like him, one that travaileth, and the one like an armed man. It's coming. It's going to happen. People that don't want to work. By the way, they're trained not to work. If you take a woman as the head of the household, it's a terrible, terrible thing. Because women, opposed to men, are less likely to have a full-time job. A man can be head of the household. He's more likely to have a full-time job than a woman. That may sound sexist, but it's just a fact. More women who are head of households do not work a job. What happens? The only question was, when's so-and-so coming home from work? When's mama coming home from work? When daddy coming home from work? When's Uncle so-and-so coming home from work? Nobody ever comes home from work. They never hear it. They don't even know about it. Then we blame this poor generation of young men standing on the street corner that they really just have never been trained how to work. We used to have a word at home. How many of you remember this word growing up? Chores. Do you remember that?
Yep.
How many of you ever had a time when you didn't have to work as a child? We all had to work, didn't we? I remember the rich kids I grew up with. Families had lots of money. Guess what? They had to work. I mean, one of my friends, his father was the pharmacist at the hospital. They boys had lots of money. I said, those white kids, man, they're rich. They had to work. They were in the fields detasseling corn in the summer, paper routes. Everybody, it was just a cultural thing. Now the poor man and the rich man neither work. Their children don't work. They're not being taught. So factual, and when poverty overtakes you, it's your fault, as opposed to you hear the television and you listen to the people roar about the inequality we have in America. And no, it's because somebody has something and you don't. That means they must have gotten it illegally taken from you. It's not true. You know, one of the great ones right now is have you seen the remarks about how the women make less than the men? And every job I've ever been at, the jobs were not based upon male or female. You make the same money whether male or female. And I used to believe that until I finally investigated it and I found out what they were using. Women were out of work sometimes 3 months out of a year, having children. And they didn't make as much when they were out. By the way, anybody ever had to go out of work got disability for a little while?
Maternity too.
Yeah. Guess what? When you go out of work, you don't get a full paycheck on disability for 6 months. Let's say you got hurt and you had to be out and they got a short-term disability. It's like 60% of what you make. It ain't the same. You don't make as much. But I found out that was the inequality. If you added up the same, it was pretty equal. Men ought to work. People just work. And by the way, so-and-so makes more than me. Why should they make more than me? They give you an explanation. I always love this one here. Well, I'm going to work like they pay me. And I remember asking, why did you take the job for? I mean, why did you take the job? Did you not know what they were going to pay you? I took it, everybody making more than me. Well, that's because you don't know as much as the others. I know as much as they do, but you ain't proved it to the man that hired you. And by the way, if you agreed to that, why not work it? You owe somebody that. If you agreed to that, then you shouldn't have took the job. I know it seems terrible, but the point is, God will take care of you. But you can't ignore his principle of work. And he calls him a sluggard. What was that? That other one, what'd you say that word was they called him?
In mine, called him a lazy bones.
Lazy bones. Let's move to verse 12. A naughty person, a wicked man, walketh with a froward mouth, a perverse mouth. He winketh with his eyes, he speaketh with his feet, he teacheth with his fingers. Frowardness, perverseness is in his heart. He deviseth mischief continually, he soweth discord. Men that are just bad people. Therefore shall his calamity come suddenly. Suddenly shall he be broken without remedy. In other words, you can't fix it. The man who has a perverse mouth, he shuffles his feet, points his fingers. Perversity is in his heart. He devises evil continually. He sows discord. Calamity is going to come suddenly, and there will not be a remedy. Comments, questions?
What that mean? He's talking about teaching with his fingers.
So, in other words, every part of his body he uses for something wrong. He just does wrong, period, because it's coming from his heart. Next. These 6 things doth the Lord hate. Yea, 7 are abomination to him. All right. This one is I marked this in my Bible years ago. Most of y'all probably got it marked. 7 things the Lord hates. A proud look, a lying tongue, and hands that shed innocent blood. Notice this. A proud look. Isn't that interesting? A proud look. Attitude. You know what a proud look is, right? Have you ever meet people when as soon as you meet them, you realize, I must have done something wrong. It's like you've offended them. It's because it's their attitude, the way they talk to you. It's that pride that they have, and they suddenly make you feel like you're less than them. You may not know this, but put up your antennas and listen to people when they talk to you. If you talk to people and suddenly you kind of feel like you owe them something, that's that look, that's that attitude. There are people who have that ability. They don't even know it, they just do it naturally. A proud look, a lying tongue. You're not supposed to lie. Now, I'm not talking about times when the Gestapo comes by your house and want to know if you're hiding any Jews. Well, I can't lie. No, you don't tell them the truth. You know what he's referring to here. You're lying for your own benefit. No, a lying tongue. God hates a lying tongue and hands that shed innocent blood. That have done nothing wrong, right? A heart that deviseth wicked imaginations. Plans. They think up wicked things to do. Feet that swift in running to mischief. They love things that are bad. They like to be a part of the crowd. They're going to be the ones that are going to be right in the middle of it. Right? Well, there's a guy that every time there was a problem, this guy would always show up. This woman shows up. There's certain ones that they always show up, that have the attention, that they love to be a part of something like that, and they're going to make it worse. In high school, we used to have those kind of guys. As soon as the fight broke out, there was hey man, he said something, I'd hit him. They're swift to get to it. They love to cause trouble, mischief. He says, a false witness that speaketh lies. A person that takes bribes of what you're talking about, a false witness. In other words, I'll say that for you. Why? How much money are you going to pay me? A false witness who speaks lies. He that soweth discord among the brethren. Oh, by the way, you ain't marked that one in your Bible? Mark that one in your Bible. That's one we used to keep years ago. Soweth discord among the brethren. Trying to keep people where they can't get along. You know that sometimes people can't get along, but don't sow discord. Don't make it worse. You know what's like. There's certain things you say. It's like today, I was at a meeting. I wanted to say something, and well, it's been about 2 months ago. You're in the middle of the meeting. You're like, don't say it like that. And I had to go on later. I said, don't say that like that. Don't say it in that manner. Why? Because when you say it that way, it portends that you are. No. If you just said it like this, okay, I can say it like that. What's the difference? Think about it. Yeah, it makes them sound like they've done something wrong. Yeah, and you're not trying to. They did do wrong, but it was innocent error. You're trying to help them along the way, right? And you don't want to sow discord. You don't want to cause trouble and just excuse me. I've been in church for most of my life. I was a deacon when I was 24, so I have seen this. Oh my goodness, have you not seen this? I mean, hold grudges for years. I mean, I'll be honest with you. It was about 2 weeks ago, I found out why somebody did something years ago. That's why he done that. That's why he said that. I mean, you've never been until you get somebody and they just put their finger, you don't tell me what I'm going to do, boy. Okay, yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. I mean, that's you. I've been there. And it's just, they say things and don't realize it. Old people, young people, it's just in your church. We then are strong or to bear the infirmities of the weak. If a young sister makes a mistake, they're not trying to do anything wrong, but sometimes errors happen. Can you be kind and bear their weaknesses? That's what Romans 15:1 says. We then are strong ought to bear the infirmities of the weak and not to please ourselves. Don't sow discord among the brethren. Don't make it worse. Don't cause trouble. Hey, brother, Deacon Moore done so-and-so. I don't think it's right. Don't you? You agree with me, don't you? And have you ever heard that one? Oh, goodness. How many times did we hear that? Well, I got it secondhand. Sowing discord among the brethren. God hates that, by the way. These are things that God hates. Look at it says, these 6 things, yea, and 7 are what it hates, abomination. Proud look, lying tongue, shed innocent blood, heart devises wicked things, imagination, feet swift for mischief, a false witness that speaks lies, and sowing discord amongst the brethren. God hates those. It's an abomination to him. What does God really hate? Oh, let's go to Proverbs 6. God hates that with a passion. He hates these things. He can't stand it. It's awful. So he's giving good common sense. By the way, these are simply the ones about sayings of wisdom for his son. Verse 20, he says, verse 20, my son, keep thy father's commandment and forsake not the law of thy mother. We've heard that already. Bind them continually upon thine heart and tie them about thy neck. In other words, the wisdom you've got, don't lose it. By the way, why do you bind it around your neck? So you don't lose it, right? You don't want to lose it. I got a set of earphones. I put them in my pocket a while ago. My wife knows I lose them a lot because I ain't found one place to put them just yet. Once I find me a place, I'll keep them. But these are things you can't lose, which is wisdom. What your mom and daddy gave you. Son, don't lose these. When thou goest, it shall lead thee. When thou sleepest, it shall keep thee. When thou wakest, it shall talk with thee. Yeah, these things are good for you. For the commandment is a lamp, and the law is a light, and the reproofs of instruction are the way of life. It'll tell you when you're wrong, and that's the way of life. It's good to be reproved and say, you know what, I didn't realize that would happen. Well, I'm sorry that happened, but I'm glad I know better now. And that's how God has it. He can help you get out of the mess you're in, but he says, now this is how you got in it the last time. I'm reminded of a brother that really got saved. I knew he was going to have a hard time getting saved. Because you know what happens when you mess up? You try to go about it the same way the next time, and God gives you clear reproof, but don't do it like this. He said, no, don't do it like this. Listen to the instructions. To keep thee from the evil woman, from the flattery of the tongue of a strange woman. Yeah, son, it'll keep you from those things. How was Joseph? What was the idea of Joseph? Remember Joseph? Ran out of his coat, didn't he? Right? I know what to do. I got this. Well, you should have talked to her. No. This time you run. I know the wisdom that God gave me. No, the flattery of the tongue of a strange woman. She'll tell you, you're the most beautiful man there is. It's a guy. He's 75 years old, bald head. This 30-year-old lady telling him how pretty he is, how great he is. She's after his money, but he can't see it. Why? Flattery. Lust not after her beauty in thine heart, neither let her take thee with thine eyelids. For by means of a whorish woman, a man is brought to a piece of bread, and the adulteress will hunt for a precious life. You'll be brought to poverty. You'll lose everything you've got in the end. You will never satisfy. You ain't got enough money to pay, and when you finish, you're broke. You can almost apply this to the drug addicts. Or those who go after a woman like this here, she's never going to be satisfied. You will have you'll have no money left. He says, don't go after her beauty. He says, a man is reduced to crust of bread. An adulterer will prey upon his precious life, take him for everything he's got. And when he's broke, she moves on to the next one. Right? Moves on to the next person. Absolute poverty. So he says, son, I'm giving you wisdom. Stay away from this kind of a woman, okay? Don't go after this person here. Don't let it do that. No. What happens? Lust not after her beauty. No. Verse 27. Can a man take fire in his bosom and his clothes not be burned? It's common sense. In other words, you're going to get hurt no matter what you do. If you go after this woman, you're going to get burned. You're going to get smoke on you. Well, I didn't get burned. You're going to get burned. Can one go upon the hot coals of his feet and not be burned? So he that goeth in his neighbor's wife, whosoever toucheth her, shall not be innocent. You're going to be tainted. He's given wise commandments to his son. You go to your neighbor's wife, she don't belong to you. That's your neighbor's wife. You're not going to be innocent. And it's going to be known. That's what the Bible says, 1 Corinthians chapter 7, verse 1. Hey, let a man have his own wife and every woman her own husband. To avoid fornication. Let every man get your own wife. Woman, get your own husband. To avoid fornication. Clear bounds. Why? That's what he says. And he says, son, look, take the commandment is a lamp, law is a light, the reproof instruction are the way of life. Son, keep your father's commandments. Don't forsake the law of your mother. You will not be innocent. What will happen after this? Verse 30, verse 30, men do not despise a thief if he steal to satisfy his soul when he is hungry. But if he be found, he shall restore sevenfold. He shall give all his substance upon his house. But whosoever committeth adultery with a woman lacketh understanding. He that doeth it destroyeth his own soul. They're not going to let you buy with this one. Now, you steal because you're hungry, that's one thing. But take another man's wife? No, you destroy your own soul. Verse 33, a wound and dishonor shall he get, and his reproach shall not be wiped away. We know that happened with David, right? You couldn't wipe it away. It was always there. He was forgiven, but he's always known by that, isn't he? Did the Lord even write it down? Yeah. What's that verse in the New Testament where God even still reminds him of it?
You're right.
Correct. In the genealogy. When he gives all the genealogies, was the right wife of Uriah. I think it says it was the wife of Uriah. He says, let me read that right quick. I think it's Matthew's genealogy.
Yeah, we read that during the Christmas season, didn't we?
You're right. They did.
Right.
It was Sunday school lesson.
Yeah, I think it was it first? I think it was. I think you're right. Yes, verse 6. Begat Solomon of her that had been the wife of Uriah. Correct. 1 and 6. Yeah, I mean, even then, you're not going to get away from this. You can't get away. It never, ever leaves you. So sometimes if you steal, that's one thing. But no. A wound is dishonor. It shall not be wiped away. And then that verse 34. For jealousy is the rage of a man. Therefore he will not spare in the day of vengeance. He will not regard any ransom. Neither will he rest content, though thou givest many gifts. Never, ever, ever, ever. No matter what you do, it's not going to come away. You can't get away from this one. That one will not be appeased no matter what you do. Now you know why men should kill somebody, right? They'll kill them. And you say, well, that was a passion. It's going to happen. Pretty strong words. So he begins this whole dialogue here with verse number 20. My son, keep the Father's commandment. Look, they're light to that. Listen to what I tell you. So he's been warned, right? And I love that chapter 4, how he says, look, my daddy taught me. Now I'm telling you. And Solomon had the same problem. Of course, he just married them, right? Of course, David did very similar. I mean, he married Bathsheba, correct? Mm-hmm. I think he also married another woman. He was married to two women at the same time. Who was his other wife's name?
Who, David?
Yeah.
Abigail.
Abigail. And Saul's daughter?
Michael.
You're right. So David had that same issue. But he taught Solomon, and Solomon just went crazy. I mean, by the way, and we know this is clearly in the scriptures in Deuteronomy 17:17 or 18. Remember? We read that the other night? Yes? No? Yes? No? Don't remember it. Okay. I wouldn't hear that day when they passed that out. Yeah. Okay, let's go. Let's go look at it right quick. Deuteronomy 17, verse 17. Neither shalt thou multiply wives. Right? What does he say? In verse 14, when thou art coming to the land with the Lord thy God giveth thee, shall possess it, I will set a king over me like in all the nations. God knew what they were going to do. So he tells them he's not going to multiply wives to himself. No, don't multiply wives to yourself. No, don't give me. And Solomon went outlandish. He had 1,000, right? 700 wives and 300 concubines. Wow. But it says clearly that's what will happen. Chapter 7. He continues this dialogue. My son, keep my words and lay up my commandments with thee. Keep my commandments and live, and my law as the apple of thine eye. Bind them upon thy fingers. Write them upon the table of thine heart. Again, don't lose them. Please remember them. Think on them. Why is wisdom so important? Have you ever noticed that a lot of what God says is anticipatory? Something about God that he always has is this. This is a huge part of who God is. He never does something unless he gives you a warning. He began in the garden. Look, don't eat of this tree. What? Because if you do, you're going to die now. Before it even happens, I'll just give you a warning up front. He always does that. Now, if you go into this land and do this, you'll be fine. And if you don't, this is what's going to happen. If you'll do this, it's like he always warns you before judgment comes. He never does it. He warns you. And so this is over and over. It's like he's driving it home. Son, please, bind them upon thy fingers, write them on the table of thine heart. Proverbs 7, verse 4, say unto wisdom, thou art my sister. And call understanding thy kinswoman. Call them that. You're going to need them. And by the way, I think it was David Gusik's commentary I was reading about, he says, interesting, he said sister. Sometimes the sister just kind of give you some advice to the brother and say, don't do that. Don't do that. I can tell you, she's no good. And a big sister like, hey, she's no good. Listen, no, don't be with her. I know about these things, right? What I mean, you already know? Yeah, I already know these. You do not want this. No, don't do this. That they may keep thee from the strange woman, from the stranger that flattereth with her words. I mean, she is there to seduce you. By the way, he said this. Why is it always about the man and what he's doing wrong? It's because he's talking to his son. But the application is far-reaching and apply to women because anybody can be gullible. But he says, look, your wisdom will help you to understand flattering words. By the way, have you ever noticed people flatter you, you automatically just feel good? When people flatter you, you can't help it. If they lying to you, you feel good. You do. Even you can know they're lying to you. You still feel good about it. You do. It's just the way. But wisdom steps in and said, hey, you know who you're talking to, right? How do you know this, sir? For at the window of my house I'll look through my casement. Behold, among the simple one I discern among the youths a young man void of understanding, passing through the street near her corner. And he went the way to her house in the twilight in the evening, in the black and the dark night. And behold, there met him a woman with the attire of a harlot, subtle in heart. Now, Brother Cam, you got the NIV, right? Start at that verse number 6 and read down through verse number 10.
At the window of my house, I looked through the lattice. I saw among the simple, I noticed among the young men, a youth who lacked judgment. He was going down the street near her corner, walking along in the direction of her house. And twilight, as the day was fading, as the dark of night set in, then out came a woman to meet him, dressed like a prostitute and with crafty intent.
Crafty intent. In other words, she come looking for him. She looked for him. He didn't go looking for her, but he's simple and minded. They know who you are. They pick you out of the crowd. You think you're that smart. You're not. Solomon thought he was that smart. The women came looking for him. What happened to Solomon? They changed him, didn't they? I mean, here's the smartest man on the face of the earth, but he was simple when it came to women. He had a problem. And he ended up bowing to the idols of these women, their gods. He became a worshiper of their gods. As smart as he was, he thought he could outlast. No. This woman in the twilight of the evening, black of the dark. So what is she like? No. Wisdom is my sister. That woman ain't right, brother. She's no good. If she come out to me, you know you ain't that pretty. Sister tell you. Wisdom will tell you, no, you know you ain't that pretty. You know good and well. Look in the mirror. You know there's something ain't right here. The attire of a harlot. In other words, you know what kind of woman she is. You can see it. Well, she just dresses. A lot of people dress like that. No. She is loud and stubborn, and her feet abide not at her house. Brother Cam, read verse 11 out of the NIV.
She is loud and defiant. Her feet never stay at home.
She's never at home. Now read verse 12.
Now in the street, now in the squares, at every corner, she lurks.
She's a prostitute. She has her eye on somebody she can get, She's like the lion that's out there and they can see, trying to find a gazelle, The old comedian says, one of the gazelles says, hey, that's John Smokes, you might try him. Find the weak one, right? As you go after the weak one, right?
That's right.
So what is she on every corner doing? Finding one that she knows she can get, right? I know which one I can get. I know who I can take. They don't understand. You're a stranger. You don't know the culture here. That's why I don't want to go to New York, because I wouldn't know where to go. I might be in the wrong place. You don't understand cultures. I'll go when somebody goes with me that knows what they're doing, where they're at. But no, she's loud. She don't stay at home. She was out now in the streets, now like to wait at every corner. So she called him and kissed him, and with an impudent face said unto him, I have peace offerings with me this day. I have paid my vows. Hey, listen, I'm clean. I'm pure. I paid my peace offerings. I'm okay. There's nothing wrong with me. Brother, read that out of the NIV if you would, please. Verse number 13 and 14.
She took hold of him and kissed him, and with a radiant face she said, I have fellowship offerings today. I fulfill my vows.
Did you go to church Sunday? I went to church Sunday too. Yeah. Where you go to church at? Hey, I made my peace offerings. Everything's good, By the way, remember the indulgences of the Catholic Church we studied? It would sell so many indulgences to make money to the rich. We studied the Catholicism. He says, I made my peace offering. I paid my vow. Therefore came I forth to meet thee, diligently to seek thy face, and I have found thee. You're the man I've been looking for. You're that young boy I've searched my whole life for. I finally found the man of my dreams. Can you say it, Brother Cam? Read that verse number 14 for it. Read 14, 15, and 16. Stop at verse 16.
I have fellowship offerings at home today. I fulfill my vows. So I came out to meet you. I looked for you and have found you. I have covered my bed with covered linens from Egypt.
Remember, go ahead. Carvings of tapestry and carved works from fine. Verse 17.
I have perfumed my bed with myrrh, aloes, and cinnamon.
In other words, I am the perfect woman for you. I am everything you've ever desired. Now, everything that she is saying here appeals to the flesh, nothing to the spirit. Why does 1 Peter chapter 3 say that a woman adorns herself how? Shamefacedness and sobriety. The heart like that God wants with the inside, not the outward adorning of the pearls and the jewels, because then you're appealing to what kind of a man? You don't want that kind of a man. You want the kind of man that's going to love you for all that you have. How you dress at home is up to you. But out there, no. You know what she's doing. I've done everything right. It's all perfect. It's waiting on you. Verse 18 says, come, let us take our fill of love until the morning. Let us solace ourselves together. For the goodman is not at home. He's gone for a long journey. Her husband ain't home. He won't be back no time soon. He's gone for a long time. He had taken a bag of money with him and will come home at the day appointed. With her much fair speech, she caused him to yield. With the flattering of her lips, how'd she force him? Flattering of her lips, right? How does Satan do it? He don't push you, don't shove you. He just tells you what you want to hear. He goeth after her straightway, as an ox goeth to slaughter, or as a fool to the correction of the stocks, till a dart strike through his liver, as a bird hasteth to the snare and knoweth not that it is for his life. Hearken to me now, therefore, O you children, and attend to the words of my mouth. Let not thine heart decline to her ways. Go not astray in her paths. For she hath cast down many wounded. Yea, many strong men have been slain by her. Her house is the way to hell, going down to the chambers of death. Son, listen to me what I'm telling you. I'm pleading with you. Let it be like his sister. No, she's no good. She's no good. As the brother, listen, I can tell you. Where's she at? Well, she went to the beach with so-and-so this weekend, but, she said she's thinking about me all the time, and I know she still loves me. You don't think I ain't heard them words? I have heard those things, brothers and sisters. Out with another man, but but she loves me. Or a woman, he really loves me. He's with somebody else. Yeah, but he said that's just temporary. He's just going along with it for right now. Her house is the way to hell, going down to the chambers of death. This first 7 chapters so far is about wisdom. Verse chapter 4, with all thy getting, get it. And when you're taught these things, don't forget it. By the way, I'll leave you this here. How many of us had something our mom and dad told us? We didn't do it I wish I'd have listened to them. We've all done that. We've said, man, I'd have been something big, but I know I should have listened to that. I'd have never gotten in this trouble. It's just the way life is, brothers and sisters. We'll stop there. We'll start in chapter 8, verse 1, okay? Next week, chapter 8, verse number 1. Okay? All right? Let's say we'll have a word of prayer and be dismissed. We'll see you tomorrow night.